Today I would like to share with you one of my favourite channels, not because the person running the channel is charismatic and likeable, or that the content is fun and enjoyable, or that they make any really good points, but because this person talks about things with such certainty and confidence and fails every single time. This is No BS, and he is unironically and unintentionally become one of my favourite channels to watch. He has unintentionally and unironically become a sort of cringe compilation for me, except rather than just separate clips of feminists with blue hair yelling at men, the clips are just the entire video of him talking. Brooks is like my favourite person on the basis that he's so unabashedly dense and incompetent and yet believes himself to be some kind of red-pilled, red-blooded alpha American male, and no one can stop him and his fight to spread the truth. It's amazing. Brooks, aka No, is literally racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, transphobic, and misogynistic. And I don't mean those words with anger or I'm trying to insult him. It's just a matter of fact, because he is those things. But if you ever challenge him on those things, he'll say that he never said the thing in which he's accused of saying, even after people play him clips of himself saying those things and showing them that he said these things. He'll either say he didn't say it, even after the proof is shown to him in real time that he said it, or that that's not what he meant, or that it's a joke, or he'll remind you that he has a college education and is educated, or he'll insult you and block you. I can't take the man seriously in any way, shape or form, and the fact that people do is very evident that the collective IQ of humanity is just on the decrease. I never got the chance to respond to Brooks, or No BS, as I'm just going to call him for the majority of this video, back when these videos were released, because I only joined YouTube in 2019. So I thought, let's go back and walk down memory lane. And if people are going to say, these are old videos, why are you using these videos? Well, they're still up on his channel, so he's got to agree with them even a little bit. I mean, he's never been known to back down from anything, no matter how dumb it is. I dubbed this video and possible series it may create Vintage Internet. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. So let's go back to that golden age in internet history when the TV show Arthur dared show gay characters on screen and the absolute hysteria that it caused. But more specifically, No BS's video responding to the aftermath of this atrocity being aired. I'm going to let Thuman explain the basic synopsis of the episode, and then I want to contrast it with No BS's reaction to the episode.
One of Mr. Ratborn's usual pop quizzes for the class is interrupted by a phone call from someone named Patty, who's calling to discuss flower arrangements for something. Mr. Ratborn apologizes to the class, explaining that the call was for a wedding. When Muffy asks who is getting married, Mr. Ratborn answers, me. The class gasps in surprise. Muffy, Arthur, Buster, and Francine discuss the news at the Sugar Bowl, surprised that Mr. Ratborn has a life outside of school. As they wonder who would marry Mr. Ratborn, the question is seemingly answered when Mr. Ratborn walks in with a woman named Patty, who's shown to be a stickler for perfection. She claims that Mr. Ratborn is too quote-unquote soft and she will toughen him up. While Arthur remarks that they don't really know what Patty is like, the others insist that they need to split them up because a tougher Mr. Ratborn would be unbearable. Muffy uses an app that turns a picture of Mr. Ratborn into an animated hippie. Buster and Arthur then trick Mr. Ratborn into making a recording of him reading a children's book, which they sync up to the app and give to Patty. Unfortunately, Patty just finds the video hilarious. The kids move to Plan B, where they try to set Mr. Rapborn up with Mrs. Turner, the librarian. Arthur and Francine stop at the gourmet chocolate store called Patrick's Chocolates, where the friendly owner Patrick gives them some free samples. They decide that the chocolate is perfect to give to Mr. Rapborn to make him fall in love with Mrs. Turner. Patrick hears their plan and remarks that the chocolate doesn't necessarily make people fall in love, but he goes along with it when Francine and Arthur claim that they are desperate. They try to lure Mr. Rapborn to the library with chocolate and non-alcoholic champagne, but he's too busy with the wedding preparations. He then asks them to return a library book for him, Love Poems by Pablo Neruda. This gives Muffy the idea to write a love poem from Ratburn to Mrs. Turner. Mrs. Turner is enthralled, however, and returns the poem with the corrections to Muffy's bad spelling and grammar, and a how-to guide on writing love poems. The kids soon learn that their families are all invited to the wedding. As a last resort, they choose to object during the ceremony. When they arrive, however, they begin to realize that Patty's duties don't seem consistent with that of a bride's. When Patty observes that they want to say something, the kids change their minds about objecting and compliment the wedding tent. Patty thanks them, but remarks that nothing would have really been good enough for her younger brother's wedding, revealing that not only is she not the bride, but she is Mr. Ratburn's sister and the officiant for the wedding. The kids are surprised to learn this, and after questioning who Mr. Ratburn is getting married to, if Patty is in the bride, they discover that their teacher is actually getting married to a man, Patrick, the chocolatier who they met earlier, and not a woman, after seeing the two of them walking down the aisle arm in arm. But instead of being shocked, they are pleased, as Patrick is a friendly person. The kids enjoy cake after the ceremony and remark that they are happy with how the wedding turned out, and that it's a brand new world now that Mr. Ratburn is married. However, observing Mr. Ratburn and Patrick having their first dance, they all agree with embarrassment that teachers should never dance.
Today we finally turn to talking about the latest woke episode of the long-running Canadian children's television show called Arthur, which recently premiered their 22nd season by having a big, progressive, pro-social justice warrior gay wedding as its ending. I guess we really shouldn't be surprised that this kind of left-wing liberal propaganda is coming out of Canada at this point, but still, it's pretty interesting what kinds of messages this show is pushing on young children. Their self-proclaimed demographic is 4 to 8-year-olds after all.
There's so much to unpack. The first thing I'd like to say is that while gay rights are closely tied to the left, it's because the right was so opposed to gay rights to begin with. It's not like they had a choice of, well, maybe we should side with this political party because we can. It's because the right was like, no, let's not let gay people get married or be open. It was the left that drove this idea. However, there still are conservative LGBTQ people. It's not like every single gay person comes out and then has to sign a contract with the Labour or Democratic Party stating their undying loyalty until death. Although we had to make LGBT rights political to get the laws that were required to, enforce our basic human rights, just because a gay couple exists doesn't mean it's a part of leftist propaganda. It could be argued that certain gay individuals or gay people as a whole can be weaponized by certain political parties, both on the left and the right. It doesn't entirely mean that they exist, therefore, the radical left. I'd also like to point out what a massive drama queen No BS truly is, because if you watch this video without seeing the episode, the way he portrays it is as if they reveal that Mr. Ratburn is marrying a man, and then after the ceremony, they rip off their suits, and it's revealed that they're wearing BDSM gear, and everybody dons masks and whips out, devices and has this massive sadomasochistic orgy in front of the children. But what actually happens is it's revealed that Mr. Ratburn is marrying a man, and they walk down the aisle arm in arm, and that's it. It just displays the over-sexualization of gay people. That straight people think, oh, gay, therefore sex. It's not like I spent my entire childhood watching straight people get married and kiss and have storylines on TV repetitively over and over, and yet it somehow affected me to be straight because I'm not straight. And I've seen a lot of people argue about this by saying, yeah, but it's homosexuality, and it's like, yeah, that's the term for it, but it also includes themes of love and attraction and fairly innocent things that wouldn't be harmful for children to see, whether it's a straight or a gay couple. So I find it interesting how it's inherently sexual and promoting an agenda when it's a gay couple, but when it's a straight couple, it's like fine because that's quote unquote normal. No BS likes to make out like he doesn't care and he's like this alpha male, red-blooded, red-pilled American, but he flails his arms at the idea of children seeing two people of the same sex walking down an aisle arm in arm.
But we're not just here to talk about this woke Arthur episode today.
Again, how is this woke when gay people have existed before political parties were even established? Just because one side of the political spectrum displays the existence of gay people more than the other doesn't make it woke. It's just accepting reality and, quite frankly, shows that you only believe gay people exist within a political narrative, which is homophobic, by the way. Because apparently every time you see a gay person, you freak out because this is some leftist propaganda that is being shoved down your throat.
We're also here to give a shout out to the red-pilled state in the United States that decided to block this episode from airing. That would be the good old boys in the Southern American state of Alabama.
Man who has hissy fits about free speech being censored is happy when something regarding free speech is censored. Go figure. This guy must really like Russia, because Russia doesn't like the gays TM either, and any quote-unquote gay propaganda is illegal there too, aka gay person existing publicly. No, how about we don't in Russia? I'm fairly sure you're a staunch capitalist, but you would really fit well in Russia, because they are in fact protecting the children by shielding them from the existence of the LGBT community, going so far as to strip the rights that have been gained away from said LGBT community. You'd fit really well in Russia. I think we should buy you one of those like fluffy Russian hats and then just send you off to Russia and see how you like it there. I'm sure you'd really enjoy the free speech that you could get over in Russia. He's also going to go on and talk about abortion, which is unrelated to this topic, but I really, truly have to respond because it's golden.
And it's been a sweet home, Alabama, as of late too, as they've also decided to take a pretty radical stance on abortions this past week as well, which caused an even bigger controversy for them before. Their banning of abortions really sparked a big, larger debate on that topic too, and on states' rights in general. And my opinion is, although I might not agree with this strict, almost 100% ban on abortions, I also believe each state has a right to make these kinds of laws locally, as they see fit. Let's not forget, radical liberal states have made some very progressive and much worse choices with their legislations before this. For example, California banned straws from restaurants.
That's right, folks. Banning straws from restaurants and forcing your customers to either bring in their own or just not use a straw at all is equivalent to telling women what to do with their bodies regarding cells that don't have any capacity for sentience or to feel pain before 24 weeks.
While also decriminalizing the intentional spreading of HIV or AIDS.
Yeah, I'll agree on that one. That's pretty stupid because in the United Kingdom, that's assault. You can't just run around knowingly infecting people. Just don't do it, guys. I mean, condoms aren't that expensive, and if you can't afford a condom, I would prioritize other things over getting laid, like finding a way to secure yourself financially. On the other side of the argument, I can acknowledge that there is a prevalence of poverty in relation to the spread of HIV and AIDS, and it is a problem obtaining healthcare for those people. I still don't think decriminalizing intentionally infecting people with a potentially deadly virus is a good thing, though. But most of all, what we can get from this section is I like how he led with the banning straws from restaurants and then went into decriminalising HIV and AIDS being spread intentionally. I think it's just funny. His brain went straight to the restaurants and the straws that he obviously deeply cares about, and then HIV and AIDS being spread intentionally, being decriminalised. That was just an afterthought. I mean, the straws are clearly more important to No BS when it comes to obtaining drinks from certain establishments. He then goes on to talk about quote unquote illegal aliens and how people are freely just committing federal crimes and nothing is done about it. Therefore, Alabama completely censoring gay people is like fine. I don't know if you know this as a grown man, but two wrongs, your perceived wrong and my perceived wrong, doesn't make a right. And this is essentially a no you. Alabama is allowed to completely ignore the existence of gay people because this state won't let me have a straw when I go into their restaurant. And also, immigrants.
Lots of different states have lots of different rules according to their local opinions and ways of life. And also, if some states are allowed to get radically leftist and allow things like sanctuary cities, which are safe havens for criminals, and not to mention, some states like Virginia allow late-term abortions all the way up until a baby's born, well, I think if we can go to that extreme on the left, then it's also okay for Alabama to go to the other extreme on the right.
Hi, it's just me, just like here, just to let you know that late-term abortions aren't things that happen because the woman just randomly changes her mind and no longer wants to have this baby. Chances are late-term abortions happen because either the baby and or the mother's life is at risk, meaning if the birth happened, the baby and or the mother would die. I don't know what it's like in America and if you guys just have this rampant problem with abortion and it's just happening a day before the due date, which is highly unlikely. But in the United Kingdom, the Gov reported that 82% of pregnancies occurred within the first 10 weeks, which looks like this. It was reported that 0.1% occurred after 24 weeks, which is when the brainwaves start to do their activation thing. And those abortions happened because there was a high chance of fatal outcome for the baby and or the mother. And whilst a late-term pregnancy, there was that 2012 case where an Indian Irish woman, whose last name I won't attempt to pronounce because I don't want to butcher it, Savita, she was 17 weeks pregnant and there were complications and she was refused an abortion and then later developed sepsis and had a cardiac arrest and died, and the baby also died. So she left behind a husband and other children because she was refused an abortion, which eventually led to Ireland realising that maybe we should allow abortions because sometimes childbirth isn't just as simple as like popping a baby out. I didn't know if you knew that, no BS, but sometimes there are complications that can actually kill a person and the baby that you're trying to protect in these cases.
First, they outlawed abortions in a way their community saw fit. And now, back to today's story, they're also banning Arthur's new woke wedding episode because they don't want that kind of liberal propaganda indoctrinating their young children.
I'm also going to impart another little piece of wisdom upon No BS because I am a generous being. Kids aren't as dumb as you think they are and are quite in tune with themselves. For example, at a very young age, I knew I wasn't like other children. I only wanted to play house with girls, and it's not because I thought that the boys had cooties or that the other girls thought the boys had cooties, so I didn't want to play with the boys in case I got cooties. I think it was my way of trying to emulate a future I wanted. And still as a child, but as an older child, I came out as bisexual And my first relationship was with a girl, and we dated for a year, and at 24, I'm still bisexual. I spent my entire childhood watching Disney movies where the princess always ended up with a prince, and yet here I am. I still like girls. I wasn't indoctrinated by heterosexuality. And arguably, Mr. Ratburn and his husband's relationship was portrayed in a much less explicit way than Disney did, because I don't even think that Mr. Ratburn and his husband kissed in the episode. And in Disney, there's a lot of kissing. Like, how are you going to let the children watch such smut? No BS. Plenty of teen movies play up heterosexual relationships and sexuality. I mean, when Twilight was popular, it was watched mostly by 12-year-old girls. No hate, if that's what they like, that's what they like. But Jacob had his shirt off in nearly every other scene. Like, oh my God, shouldn't we protect the children from the straights? Or perhaps, just maybe, just slightly, you're a bit homophobic and view gay relationships as inherently filthy and sexual and should be hidden behind those things that they have in convenience stores that they hide the graphic magazines behind.
Instead of straight up saying Alabama is a bunch of far-right, conservative, redneck monsters, I would like to offer this alternative view that they just really care about conservative values, and more importantly, they also really care about their children and their future.
Correction. They really care about their children's futures if they're straight. If the child is gay, screw the child. Because again, being gay isn't inherently sexual, and much like straight people do, children can discover themselves and their identity without banging. It's a thing. There's flirting, there's attraction, there's cute little love notes, there's things that young adults can do that don't necessarily equate to filthy, heinous things. Speaking of conservative values, I don't think you're married yet. You really should be married and have at least 4 children, and you really shouldn't be making videos on the internet. You should be out there in the fields working from dawn till dusk, because you're the man and you should be bringing in the money, and you need to earn an honest living. And an honest living includes back-breaking labour at the expense of the working class. I've also seen pictures of you, and you're not really appealing to my ultra-masculine conservative expectations. Really, you should be ripped to and you should probably have a 6-pack. 6-packs are very important, and you'll get that from the back-breaking labour. I mean, body positivity is an SJW thing, and you really like to clown on those guys. So either you should just really get to the peak of physical appearance, or you should just hate yourself entirely, because, let's be fair, mate, you're not slim.
As we've seen with both of these stories, they're really doing this for the kids, whether about to be born or aborted, unfortunately, or also maybe the kids have been alive for a couple years and they're about to watch Arthur. Either way, Alabama cares, and there's something really right about that too.
Ah yes, Alabama, the state of caring about and protecting children, the utmost important virtue. But screw women, am I right? I mean, even if the kid's not going to make it, let's just not let her have a life-saving surgery, because that would be wrong. He then blabbers on about some article, and he reads it over some average gameplay footage. If he didn't do that gameplay footage, I'm sorry to whoever did it. You're alright, but I'm confused as to how we've gone from avatar to screenshot to gameplay footage, and then ends with like a video of a girl. There's no consistency. It's all around the place, and it's just the wild ride I would expect from No BS.